the most genius thing you can do in life is just to never give up. No matter what happens, no matter what life throws at you, no matter what you face, no matter what you've done, no matter, no matter what it is, just don't give up. Keep going. Hi, and welcome to the Life and Times podcast. We are on a mission to help those who are on their personal journeys of growth to feel empowered and expand their minds. We do this by sharing content that informs and inspires action through transformational interviews, storytelling, and real life lessons that you can apply today. Let's get into the episode. Hi, and thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Aquila, and this is the Life and Times podcast, where we are on a mission to help those who are on their personal journeys of growth to be empowered and expand their minds. We do this by sharing content that informs and inspires action through transformational interviews, storytelling, and real life lessons. So let's get into this episode. But before we do, I just want to ask you to take a moment to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and also subscribe. That is one of the easiest ways that you can support the channel and what we're trying to do and to help us grow and help us to reach more people with the messages that we have. Today, there's no guest, it's just me, and I really wanted to come and just give a message directly to my listeners, because one thing that I know for sure is that we all go through things in life and we all need a little bit of encouragement at different points in times. And I feel it's my duty to be a light in this world, and particularly, especially on this platform, just really to shed light to people who may need it, for people who are just really struggling or going through something and are feeling down. And I am no stranger to struggle at all. I grew up in Orchard Park Projects in Boston, in Roxbury. A lot of people know it because that's where Bobby Brown grew up. So I grew up in the hood where there was a lot of poverty, a lot of violence, a lot of just negativity around me every single day. And to be born into that type of environment, the outlook isn't always that great. What people believe you can grow into coming out of that is, not super glamorous, and even more so than what people believe. Really, a lot of times what we believe about ourselves growing up in environments like that, it can be really just discouraging. So I grew up in a I don't want to say a single parent household, because I had two mothers. I had my mother and my grandmother both living in the house with me, and then my father was also in my life, but he and my mother split when I was young. So my family was it wasn't a traditional family. Well, I guess for people coming from where I came from, it was pretty traditional, but just in the bigger picture and the bigger scheme of things, it was not a traditional family. I grew up where every day, at least a couple of times a week, maybe a few times a month, there was shootings going on constantly, people dying constantly. I got caught in the middle of a drive-by when I was 12 years old, when I was a teenager, having guns pointed directly at me. And that, going through all of that is so traumatizing, super traumatizing. And I grew up, as I was growing up, I made the decision. I've always was into food. My grandmother really inspired me in that area. She loved to cook, and she would cook for family, friends, strangers, her church, all the time. And I just saw, how happy it made other people when she cooked, and I wanted some of that. So I ended up going into the food industry. I chose to go to Madison Park when I was in middle school. I decided that I wanted to go there because I knew that they had a vocational program, and I really wanted to pursue culinary arts. I had no intention, no dreams, no desire to go to college, but I ended up going anyway because I received a scholarship when I was in high school. I actually received 2 scholarships. The first one, I just didn't even faze me. I wasn't impressed with it because it just wasn't a part of my plan. I had received the John and Abigail Adams scholarship, which was basically because I had high testing scores. And when I received that, I realized that, I already knew, like, I didn't want to go to college, so I wasn't really, I didn't want to do anything with that. And I don't think I actually told my mother for a long time that I actually received the scholarship. And then the second time I received a scholarship was through a program called Future Chefs, which was for me, it was just a culinary competition. I enjoyed cooking and I enjoyed competitions. So I ended up receiving a scholarship to go to New Hampshire to go to school. And I told them, thank you, but I don't want to go to college. And my teachers and my mentor and my mother and my grandmother, they all kind of ganged up on me and talked me into going. So I did end up going to school, but even that, it was a struggle for me because since I didn't want to go to high school, or since I didn't want to go to college, when I was in high school, I did not take grades seriously. I chose to be, I had an entrepreneurial spirit from very young. I had a very strong will from very young, and critical thinking came very easily to me. So I decided that, since I'm not going to college, okay, how can I don't have to worry about my grades, so let me figure out how I can make the most of my time. So every year I would get my syllabus and I would look and I would see tests and quiz are worth a certain amount of percent. Class participation is worth a certain amount of percent. And they, test and quiz was like 60% of your grade. And I was great at testing because I learned quickly. I learned easily. I took in information well and I could replay it well. Or recall it well. And I saw class participation was like, like 10%, 15% of your grade. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can participate in class because I know the answers. And then homework was like 20%. I was like, all right, cool. Homework is 20%. So if I skip this homework thing, I don't have to do any homework. Then I could just, do really well on these other pieces. I could get scored between 80s to 100 on these other things, and I can keep skating by. I was on the cheerleading team, so I really did the bare minimum just to be able to stay on that team. So when I got the scholarship to go to school, I didn't even have a GPA that allowed me to even apply to the college that I wanted to go to, or the college that they were giving me the scholarship for. So I learned about the scholarship in my junior year, and the deal was I had to get straight A's in my senior year in order to grow. Well, yeah, I guess partly, but in order to apply to the college. So I did. I got straight A's in my senior year, and I was able to apply to the school. I got accepted to the school, and I went to the school. And I'm proud to say, once I got to the school, I was like, all right, this is a different level. This isn't high school anymore. These grades actually count for something. And these grades, I'm paying some money to be here. I had a half tuition scholarship, but I still had some out-of-pocket expenses. So I had a little bit more invested in the game at that time. So I ended up graduating. My first year, I had a GPA of 3.668, and I'm literally coming from a GPA of like 1 point something when I was in high school. So I also wanted to prove it to my mother that it was just because I didn't want to, not because I couldn't get the grades. And so I was really proud of myself. So after college, I ended up moving back home. Moving back to Boston. I made a vow that I would not go back to the projects after I left, and I did not. I went and I got my own. Well, first I stayed with my dad. I stayed with my father for a few months. He allowed me to live expense free, so that I was able to save up some money, which was like super helpful for anybody out there that has children. If you can, give them the opportunity. Give them, don't rush into making them, oh, you have to pay this, you have to pay that. And I know for a fact that that's not always a realistic possibility. Because one of the reasons why I did not go back to the projects is because, once I turned 18, my birthday gift from Boston Housing was that, hey, you need to go sign this lease. And so when you sign that lease, if you live in any type of income-based housing, that's pretty much, a part of that trap where anybody that's over 18 in the household has to sign the lease, and therefore their income has to count. So I completely understand if you're living in an income-based situation, and once your child signs a lease and the income that they're making, you can't afford it on your own. I understand that, and I get it, and it's unfortunate, but it's a part of a trap, but I get it. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to do it, because why I didn't want to sign the lease. I didn't want to go back to the projects because, one, I didn't want to give them my money. I hated that place. I hated the whole idea of it, the whole idea of the projects. I hated it from a very young age, and I didn't want to give them my money. And also, I didn't want, even if my mother or my grandmother were like, they didn't want to charge me, I didn't want to be an extra financial burden to them either. So, I decided, I was like, I just got to do this on my own. I can't go back to this place. So, going through all of that, and then shortly after graduation, my mother was really sick. She was diagnosed with cancer when I was in high school. And I'm sorry, not when I was in high school, when I was in college, and she had gone through remission and everything was good. And once I graduated, I don't know if it was like at the time that I graduated, maybe like a year into it, she had, the cancer had come back, and she had gotten really, really sick. She got really sick. And she ended up going into the hospital in November of 2020. She had gotten really sick, and she ended up going into the hospital. And when she went into the hospital, I was so afraid. I thought that she was gonna pass away at that time. I thought I was gonna lose my mother right there and then in that moment. But she didn't. She was in the hospital for a good 6, almost 7 months. And I, during that time, it was so hard for me, so hard for my family. I'm so proud to say that she was never alone. She had us there supporting her all throughout the way, all along the way. And, we basically lived in the hospital with her. We were there day, night, overnight. So it was a challenge for my entire family. But honestly, I feel like that time, although it was so hard, it was a blessing to me and a blessing to my family, and I think just a blessing to all of us, and probably my mother too. Just gave us the opportunity to just kind of let the reality, what was happening, sink in. It let that sink in, and we had time to grieve her over those months, even while she was still here. And that's why my heart really goes out to anybody who loses somebody suddenly, because I know anybody who loses a parent, period. Because I've lost many people in my life, but losing your mother is like it's a different level. It's literally it's very literally that one half of you is now missing from this earth, and you feel that. You feel that pain, you feel that hurt, you feel that struggle, you feel that emptiness, and it's hard. Nothing else can fill it. And my heart goes out to anybody who loses somebody suddenly, because I remember when my mother first went into the hospital and I thought that she was gonna go, I was a mess. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't do anything but cry for days. And I didn't even have the strength to call out to work. I had to have other people call out for me, because I couldn't compose myself. The thought of doing anything was just torture. And so my heart really goes out to anybody who is dealing with that. But one thing I can say that got me past that moment, and I think this is something that can get anybody past the moment, is really just understanding. That was the first time I understood what it means to surrender something. I grew up with my grandmother instilled a very deep spiritual foundation in me. And, she taught me to pray when I was young, and she taught my mother to pray. She taught all of us, so it just kind of ran through me. But I never really understood You always hear, or I always heard people saying, just give it to God, surrender it to all, put your, all of that stuff. And I got it. I mean, I heard it, but I didn't get it. And it wasn't until I was in a moment where there was nothing I can do. This was the first time in my life I felt completely helpless, hopeless. Like, I'm watching my mother go through this thing and there's absolutely nothing I can do. And I realized, like, there's nothing you can do here. There's nothing, absolutely nothing you can do, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how wrong it seems. Whatever's happening here is beyond your control. And in order to get myself out of the place where I was just a mess every single time I saw her, or I didn't even have to see her, just all the time, just knowing the situation, I realized that if we're here, if we're living in this moment, if my mother's sick like this and she's in the hospital right now, what I really want to do is be there for her. I want to be there with her, to spend time with her, but I also really want to be there to support her emotionally. And feeling how I was feeling, I wasn't able to really be present mentally or spiritually, or I was there physically, but I was just so in my head the whole time, like, oh my God, like crying on the inside, but trying not to let it out on the outside, And then one day I just looked and I'm like, you know what, God, this is one situation I really can't control. This is a situation that there's nothing I can do. So right now, I just have to say, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the power to change the things that I can change, and the knowledge to know the difference. And really help me to let go. And just that, and not only just saying those words, but truly internalizing them. I think that was the first time in my life I ever done that. And I don't think there's been another time in my life where I had to do that to that point, or I've really done that to that point. But that was the most amazing thing I've done. And that was like a couple weeks into her being in the hospital. And, it gave me all the strength I needed. And it gave me all the peace I needed. That was the first time I can really say I understand. Like, it's so crazy. Like, everybody has different beliefs and everybody has a different guidance system. But for mine, growing up in church, like I always heard them say, God will give you a peace that surpasses all understanding. And it's like all the things that I've heard growing up in regards to God, because I always grew up praying, and I always did all this stuff, but it doesn't get real until it gets real. And when they say you're gonna have a peace that surpasses all understanding, that's really what I had. Because in the midst of like the toughest time of my life, the hardest moment of my life, I had so much peace. And it's like peace doesn't equate to the absence of craziness, absence of chaos. It's just it's the knowing and the feeling that everything is all good, no matter what. And I wasn't worried anymore. I wasn't worried about what's gonna happen with her. Like, I just knew the only thing that I can control is that, do I want to be here with her? Yes. Do I want to make sure that I'm making the best of this time that I have with her, whatever that time is? Yes. Do I want to make sure that I'm emotionally stable so that I'm able to be there with her and not just pretending to be? Yes. So those were the things that I could control. What I couldn't control is whether or not my mother takes another breath. I couldn't control whether or not, I couldn't control as much as I wanted her to be there with me forever. And I can't control that. And I also have peace in just knowing that one thing that's promised to us in this life is hardship. I don't even want to say hardship, because it's also promised to us. What's promised to us is that what is promised to us in this life is that we will go through ups and downs, peaks and valleys, highs and lows, whatever you want to call it. That is promised to every single one of us. So my encouragement today is just to tell you guys that no matter what you're going through, never take life personally. Don't take life personally. If something happens to you, something bad happens to you, or something that's hurtful happens to you, somebody hurts you, somebody that you really love hurts you, somebody that you really love passes away or gets injured. No matter what, you're born into a situation where your family don't care about you. You were hurt, you were raped, you were whatever it is that you go through in life. Just don't take it personal. Just understand that sometimes one way to flip that around is just to think, what if this thing was given to me because I'm strong enough to overcome it? And I'm the one that is strong enough to shed a light on it for somebody else that's going through it that may not be as strong. What if this thing was given to you or something was hit you so hard, something that, maybe runs real deep in your family. Maybe you were introduced to alcohol or drugs really early and you got caught up into it. Maybe that was given to you because you're the strong one. You're the one in the family that can change that. It's not a place that you want to be. It's something that you can change. Sometimes you have to look at it like, why was I given this? Not like, why me? But what can I do with this? The reality is, this is the hand that you were dealt. So how can you change? Take that thing and transform it. Turn your pain into purpose. Don't just stop with the pain and dwell in the pain and live in that space of hurt. Life is not always fair. To me, it doesn't seem fair that at 24 years old, when I'm just now becoming an adult, that, my mother leaves me, and the guidance that I needed from her and the conversations that I would like to have with her, I'll never get a chance to do that. That's not fair to me. It's not fair to me that, I had a daughter who never met my mom. And, my mother wanted a granddaughter so bad. She got a grandson when she was here. She loved him too, but she always wanted a granddaughter, and now she has one, but she never got the chance to meet her. That's not fair. It's also not fair that me and my mother made a pact when I was young, that when I had a baby, that she would stay with me and take care of that baby until they came out of diapers, because I don't like diapers. And now I just ended up having to take care of all the diapers on my own. That's not fair. But it's a part of life. So sometimes you just gotta take the mess, find the message within that mess. There's so many, I've gone through many highs, so many things, so many great accomplishments in my life. But I've gone through so many lows in my life. But one thing that, my first mentor said to me, Jay-Z, is, one of the most genius things that he did was never give up. He was always trying to get a record deal. When he was first starting off, he didn't get into rap game until he was 26. Trying to, get a record deal wasn't easy for him. So what did he do? He said the most genius thing he did was he didn't give up. No matter how many doors closed in his face, no matter how many people told him no, the most genius thing he did was he did not give up. And that's the most genius thing that you can do, is not give up. Imagine if this man would have gave up. You know how many songs we would have been lacking? How different my life would have been, because he honestly is the one that really spoke into me. All that time I wasn't doing homework, I was at home listening to Jay-Z in my room, like just being inspired, like letting him pour into me. And this dude coming from the projects, coming from where he came from, coming from where I come from, probably where a lot of y'all are coming from. He he didn't give up. And right now, look at this dude, the first rap billionaire, doing his thing, smart businessman, whatever. You ain't gotta like Jay-Z. Maybe you don't love Jay-Z as much as I do, and this is all going over your head. But the point is, the most genius thing you can do in life is just to never give up. No matter what happens, no matter what life throws at you, no matter what you face, no matter what you've done, no matter what it is, just don't give up. Keep going. Never quit. You're worth it. You're worth taking a chance on. And I think that's it for today. I think that's what I got. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this video. I want you to talk back to me. Subscribe to the channel. And just that's the one of the best ways that you can support, so that we can keep getting these messages out to more and more people, because we all need a little encouragement, and I'm just trying to spread the light. So help me to spread that light. Peace.